Hello there, good evening and welcome. Every second, events break across the body polity and in particular from the nation's federal capital. This is Abuja Dispatch, a platform that is specially created to bring to your living rooms those events and issues, and indeed those characters that have shaped the entire landscape of the nation's federal capital for the past 1 week. Adegboye Garogbodo is my name. Let's start off with those stories that made up our news headlines in the outgoing week.
President Muhammadu Buhari had assured Nigerians that the governing party, All Progressives Congress, the APC, will continue to bequeath strong political institutions that reflects their choices through non-interference in elections, citing outcome of polls in Ekiti, Anambra and Osun State as indicators. The president, who received members of the Progressives Forum (PGF) led by Chairman and Governor of Kebbi State Abubakar Atiku Bagudu at the State House on Tuesday, noted that non-interference in elections give credence to the political process, ensures participation and inclusiveness, and shows that the governing party respects the electorate. President Buhari said the APC under his leadership will continue to respect Nigerians by ensuring that their votes count and the people's voice matter in choosing political leaders at different levels. For the 2023 elections, President Buhari said the government will also ensure that Nigerians do not get intimidated or humiliated by those in positions or the more privileged. President Buhari urged the party's political leaders to intensify efforts in thinking, meeting and strategizing for the 2023 elections. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, has expressed worries that the government may not be able to make provision for Treasury-funded capital projects in the 2023 fiscal year. Ahmed also disclosed that budget deficit for the 2023 fiscal year may run between 11.30 trillion naira to 12.41 trillion naira, depending on the choice of what will be made by the government on the issue of subsidy payment on premium motor spirits, otherwise known as petrol. At the presentation of the 2023 to 2025 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper before the House of Representatives Committee on Finance in Abuja, the minister put the aggregate expenditure of the government for 2023 at 19.76 trillion naira. She identified insecurity, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, low percentage of personal income tax by some Nigerians as reasons why most of the projected revenues from the government have not been realized. The Department of State Services, DSS, has denied reports of abducting Nigerians in the form of arrest, stating that it is a law-abiding and professional agency committed to protection of citizens and sensitive government installations. The Secret Service was responding to a report which quoted Amnesty International as stating that the DSS abducts innocent Nigerians under the President Muhammadu Buhari regime. Spokesperson for the DSS, Peter Afunaya, in a statement clarified that the organization only arrests when, where, and if necessary as part of its enforcement activities, adding that the Secret Service operations are carried out in line with tenets of democratic ideals. Afunaya also added that at no time had the agency embarked on its actions without following laid-down procedures in respect of obtaining warrants of arrest or orders for detention from competent legal authorities. The Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions says empowered civil servants are part of key prerequisites towards ensuring a virile society where the systems of governance work unhindered. At a 2-day capacity development strategic workshop to skill civil servants with modern techniques and enlighten them on work ethics, Senate Committee Chairman Senator Ayo Akinyelure stated that the workshop is aimed at preferring a workable roadmap that would create an environment for accountability, good ethical practices, and standardized due processes. He explained that the society is ridden with divergent challenges varying from fraud, corruption, failed contracts, failed bank transactions, insurgency, and high level of insecurity. mainly due to lack of good governance and work ethics. Meanwhile, the National Assembly, through its Committee on Public Petitions, has presented a special platform through which people ventilate their grievances against the conduct of any public authority charged with the responsibility of administering laws made by the National Assembly, and also investigate petitions from Nigerians, both private and corporate, on any issue, especially the conduct of affairs of government authorities.
Hitherto, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation is a company funded by government. Companies whose governance resides beyond the company. And also, it has a dual role of being the agency of government and also running a business. And that's clearly a complication that has made it impossible for this company to operate at its optimum over the years, the last 43 years to 44 years. So what changed? In year 2000, government initiated a program of reform in the oil and gas sector, recognizing that our governance framework was weak, it wasn't world-class, it wasn't delivering the value that is expected, and more than anything, we didn't have a national oil company that is operating commercially. And we are lagging behind. Many of the national oil companies that you are seeing today that actually started well after us, but we didn't do the catch-up because they have something different. And what is different is that these companies have limited liability, and that's what our law did for us. The Petroleum Industry Act came and converted this company as a matter of requirement to be a limited liability company, which means that it has no recourse to public funds. It is also owned by the 200 million Nigerians, including me and you. And not only that, there is an ownership structure that ensures that this interest is held on behalf of all of us by the Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated and the Ministry of Finance Incorporated in a manner that is supervised by the National Economic Council. It also means there's freedom to act profitably. You cannot do things that are not commercial. You have the board as the highest decision-making body of this company, which is typical of every Kama company, and also to do businesses in wide areas in the energy sector, and including non-energy businesses. All these were practically difficult to implement when you are bound under certain regulations that do not allow you to make some decisions that are requirements of the Company and Allied Matters Act. And therefore, we transited from a corporation that is fully owned by government, funded by government in all sense, and largely an agency of government, to a limited liability company that is owned by all of us, that is accountable to its board, and that is open to every scrutiny that every other company is exposed to. In July 2021, the National Assembly passed the Petroleum Industry Act. And subsequently, on the passage of the Petroleum Industry Act, Mr. President, rightly and courageously endorsed the Petroleum Industry Act and passed it to become the law of the Federation. That means now the Petroleum Industry Act. And I must emphasize that the petroleum industry is governed by two major laws in the past: the Petroleum Act, 1967, and the Petroleum Profit Tax Act, also of 1967. And may I seek this opportunity to also mention that there is no substantial change in the Petroleum Act and the Petroleum Property Tax Act since 1967. Essentially, you are dealing with a very ancient law that does not respond to the realities of today, but we didn't have the courage to change it. Since 2000, every effort to change those legislations to ensure that we bring our regulation in line with best practice in the industry globally, and also to react to the realities of today didn't work out. And I can tell you very, very confidently that the reason was absence of courage and actual of detachment from the realities that, yes, government can actually take up its hands from a company that can do better under a different environment. And that's why the passage of the petroleum industry is a major milestone for our country. It is changing the law that everyone else couldn't do. I think that's the best way to put it. Since 1964, no significant amendment has been made to our petroleum laws until Mr. President passed into law the petroleum industry. And that rolled into process a number of things. First of all, the law requires that we must incorporate the NNPC Limited within a certain period of time. And that we did in a very record time. And thereafter, as you will also recall, there's a cutover of the company. Because when you do, you must have assets. So this company, when we incorporated, it didn't have assets. The law also requires that certain assets must be transferred to this company. And also, Mr. President, rightly also transferred the assets of the former NNPC, some of the valued assets that are clearly determined on the basis of best practice that you can find anywhere. A value was put on it, and Mr. President, in his wisdom also, transferred those assets to the NNPC. But that means there's a complete cutover of the NNPC as a corporation to the NNPC Limited on the 1st of July. And thereafter, the rest is history. Ambition is to be the dynamic global company of choice. Today, companies and individuals have choices. As you already seen in the global space, geopolitical issues that are coming up, people have choices. People decide where they want to acquire energy from. And therefore, you must have the reliability of supply, the ability to manage pricing, and also ultimately that your partners can see that it's a long-term partnership that they can have with you. And therefore, when you do this, you can now become the global company of choice. But you cannot do this except you have integrity, you perform in an excellent manner, and also you have sustainable practices. Sustainability is everything today. You can get this out today, you can make profit today, but profits must be sustainable. Delivery of energy must be sustainable. People must see this. And more than anything, it must be clear that you are following a path that recognizes the realities of today, which is climate change. So by the way, climate change is real, energy transition is real, but it must be just. And it's probably not a moment to speak about this, but we are doing everything possible, first of all, to provide the energy of today as we continue to build the capacity and ability to create sustainable energy through our new energy initiative. And you will see this. And therefore, if we do this, we'll be able to reliably deliver energy while continuously creating value for our stakeholders and our shareholders particularly, which is all of us in this country. And is it possible to break from the past? Yes, it is. As I mentioned, we lost 803 billion naira in 2018, and we published it. I'm sure you must have seen those reports. They are still on our webpage. By 2019, we were able to cut down those losses to just 2.3 billion naira. And by end of 2020, financial 20, we have published our financial statement audited by the best of class financial institutions. You can check this. And we made a profit of 287 billion naira. And I can tell you, 2021 accounts are ready. We're only waiting for governance and processes because of the very fact that we're a Kama company, and we'll publish it. And I can tell you we did better than year 2020. One major thing that is real is energy poverty in our country. And there's no way you can close that gap except you focus on what you have. And what we have is enormous gas resources that we have in this country. As a matter of fact, this country is a gas country, not an oil country. This country has enormous resources. We have always focused on the liquids. We have always focused on today so that we can have the cash that will continue to things that we have always done over the years, but without focusing on the new energy sources. And the only way you can achieve this is to make sure that you access the gas resources that you have. And that is why, since this government comes, several projects have been delivered. Gas delivery projects, some are ongoing. We have commissioned NNPC directly, our IGF facility in Benin. Our IKK project is on course and will deliver it by first quarter of next year. We are also progressing the Trans-Morocco pipeline and also the Trans-Saharan pipeline, which is also in the media. I'm sure you have seen this. This is long-term. It's not for today, but I can tell you that the world needs it. And that connections are necessary. And those infrastructures, because we never focus on it, it has always been what I call on the PowerPoint, and that it must come on the table, and it's now on the table. That we have access to financing for them, we have partnership that will work. There's a greater trust for our country, and I can tell you this, there's a greater trust for our country in the international sphere, in the consumer market space. As you might have seen, several engagements have taken place with the European Union Economic Energy Commission, and very many other stakeholders that too many to mention in this platform, that people now think that we're serious, that we can deliver this. As we do this, first and foremost, we deliver gas into domestic market. As we speak today, we are unable to meet the growing demand for gas in our country. Very many reasons. First of all, we have failed to bring in the infrastructure that is required in the last 20, 30 years. No need to lament. But what can we do today? What we're doing today is to increase supply into the domestic market such a way that gas-based industries can come up. We can provide gas to power. We're already doing this. We're already meeting the basic requirements, but we know we're not there. And there are several things that we are doing to get through the actions of government. Government has decided that this is a decade of gas. More than anything, there's a gas expansion program which has specific targets in the upstream so that the gas will be available, building the infrastructure that is required, and also supporting the industries that will necessarily take this gas to either to convert them to other materials that can be of use or to create power. Big question. Everybody will say, why are you importing petroleum product? Yeah, because you are not processing internally. Needless to lament again. Our refineries are not functioning today. We deliberately shut them down because it didn't make any further sense for you to take in, example, $100 oil into a refinery and the product it brings out is $70. This is for very many reasons, very many years of neglect that has crystallized into an inability of this plant to perform optimally. It's still lamentation. We are not absolving ourselves from that responsibility or that liability. It is real. But what is very, very obvious is that the very fact that this company wasn't operating as a business was the key reason, because decisions cannot be made. Sometimes, even to put in place a contract to replace a part will take you 10 months to do. And the refineries don't wait for you. And overall, you ended up having a situation where you are unable to make it optimally processed, and we shut it down. And now, we are very confident that we are restoring it back to at least 90% of their installed capacities. We already have contracts in place, contractors. I will also invite you at your right time, I will discuss with the chairman, that you can come and see what is happening in Port Harcourt Refinery. We will get it back. We will get it back to normalcy. We will run it as a business. As a matter of fact, we borrowed money to fix it. We didn't take petroleum money. We are borrowing money to fix it because borrowers will not lend you money, lenders, will not give you money except they are sure that you can return it. And the payment for that is tied to the productivity of that refinery. And that means that something must change. And what did we change? We are not going to operate it. We are going to have an O&M mechanism. It means operation and maintenance contractor will run it. We will not run it because that's a basic requirement of the lending. The lender said, no, we can't trust you at this point in time to run it except you decide through a transparent process, put in place an O&M contractor, then we can lend you money. And that's why as we complete, we will hand over to the O&M contractor both for Kaduna and for refinery. And I'm sure this will be a different story. For a business, we think that this is the right thing to do. As a matter of fact, very, very few companies operate refineries on their own. They will always take an O&M contractor. This is what we didn't do in the last 43 years, and unfortunately, it's lamentation. The level of losses that we have on our pipeline, product pipeline, you remember that in Lagos area, when a fire outbreak happened in one of our pipelines, now we discovered that some of the pipelines are actually connected into individuals' homes. And not only that, and without really, with all sensitivity to our religious beliefs, some of the pipelines and some of the products that we found are actually in churches and in mosques. That means that everybody is involved. There is no way you will take product, bring in trucks in populated neighborhood, load it and leave without everybody else knowing about it. That everybody includes members of the community, members of the religious leadership, and also, and most likely, government officials of all natures, including security agency personnel. They are everywhere. And we have seen this even in the Niger Delta, and I'm coming to this. And there's no way you deliver volume and then lose up to 30% and you continue to put that product on this line. So what are we doing different? First and foremost, as you can see, every slight dislocation in the transportation system today, trucks' inability to deliver product, you will see queues somewhere. This is because every day you have at least 2,500 trucks loading from different depots coming into different parts of the country. You have to do this because there's no other way of doing it. It would have been easier if the products are close to the source. For instance, if the products are by pipeline into Suleja, so what it means is that you just need maybe 30 kilometers into Abuja town. Now the trucks have to leave Lagos, Ogara, Calabar, Port Harcourt to come into Abuja before they come into Suleja before they come into Abuja. This is the reality that we're dealing with. And this is why we also decided that we don't have to continue to run this. What we have to do is to create a replacement process. And by the way, some of the pipelines have aged, no doubt. Many of them have lived their lifespan, some supposed to be 20 years, some of them are now 40 years, and they naturally give up. But more than anything, and much more difficult to manage is the issue of vandals, which cuts across every community, no exception now. In the past, people have always thought that it is between Lagos and Mosibi that you have problem, or between Warri and Bini, or probably maybe in the east or somewhere. It's everywhere. Wherever our products have gotten to, everybody has now become some form of vandal.
That is our package this week on Abuja Dispatch. For further information, comments, and suggestions, you can contact us at Lagos Television Abuja Bureau Office, number 78 Ralph Shoden Street, Central Business District, Abuja. Or better still, you can contact us on our various social media platforms. Thanks for joining us tonight on Abuja Dispatch. A week from now, we'll bring you another refreshing episode. Same time, same station. Adegboyega Arogodo is my name. Bye for now.